Hi everybody, Mike Beer here with Wednesday's DRF Race of the Day. We're going down to Gulfstream Park for race number 8, an allowance optional claiming event, 3-year-olds and up. They're going to go a 1-turn mile on the main track. Let's take a look at this field. 7 of them have entered. You can see the 2 shortest prices on the morning line are a couple of 3-year-olds. The number 3, War Stopper, off of a layoff here, getting a trainer change to Todd Pletcher. The number 5, Answer In, who is second off of a layoff here for trainer Brad Cox. He's going to stretch out after sprinting in his return down to Churchill Downs. They're going to vie for favoritism here. It does feel like they are going to be the 2 shortest prices on the line. Pletcher has another horse in here in the 6, Roman Empire. He is coming in off of a win over course and distance in June, so a little bit of a layoff of his own here. Of course, Pletcher, you don't really worry about layoffs with him. A couple of horses down towards the inside who I guess aren't totally impossible here. The 1, Geonosis, and the 2, Glory of Florida. They're both multiple winners, while the 2 favorites on the morning line both only have maiden wins to their credit. These 2 horses are actually both in pretty good form as they head into this race, and they have recency on their main rivals in this race. We'll just see what happens as far as whether they can class up with this field or not. Both of them have recently switched barns to run for new trainers, and they've actually run well out of their new barns in their recent starts, and they've run figures, in the sort of low 80s. Those kinds of figures, I guess, are going to give them a chance in here, but only if the 2 favorites do not show up with their best races in here. If one or both of those 2 horses show up with their good race, it feels like horses like Geonosis and Glory of Florida are really going to have to improve to win here. Let's start off the analysis here by looking at the Timeform US Pace Projector, because it is one of those situations, that rare gray bar situation where Timeform US could not find any speed in this field. And they have the number 3, War Stopper, out there on a lonely early lead. They don't think he's going to have to go fast to get there. We'll see if, any of these horses stretching out in distance. There are a couple of horses stretching out in here who can show a little bit of speed here and maybe keep him a little bit more company up on the front end. War Stopper's lone career win to date did come in a race where he got loose on a slow pace, and he ran a very, very fast race that day, breaking his maiden with a 93 Beyer speed figure. Otherwise, his form doesn't look that great on paper. But he's a pretty interesting case in this race because he made his first 2 career starts on turf. He began his career for Rudy Rodriguez, by the way. His first 2 starts came on turf, and he didn't run that well in those races. When they switched him to dirt last December at Aqueduct, also going a 1-turn mile, he only finished 5th that day, beaten 9 lengths. The Beyer came back a 66. It may not look like much on paper, but this horse actually ran well that day. First of all, that was a very good field of maidens at Aqueduct in December, and this horse, making his first start on dirt that day, he had speed. He had a very awkward break in that race and got outrun early, and then he tried to catch up. He made this big, long, wide run around the turn. He ultimately couldn't reach the leaders, and he flattened out in the stretch. But all in all, considering the start and then the wide run he had to make in there, he didn't run poorly at all. It actually pointed him out as a horse who might have some potential. And then, of course, he came back with that race in January, also 1-turn mile at Aqueduct, where he did have all the best of it. It felt like the rail was a good place to be. The pace wasn't fast. He had no trouble making the early lead in there, and he crushed that field with a 93 Beyer. Obviously, a 93 Beyer is going to make him very tough in this race, and if he gets loose on the lead, maybe you'll see another performance like that one. He's pretty interesting here. His most recent start back in March came into Gotham. He was no match that day. He made a brief early lead in there, but that was too tough a spot for him, and he faded to finish a well-beaten 10th. He hasn't been seen since then. It's 277 days since that race. He now turns up with a trainer change to Todd Pletcher, and there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, Todd Pletcher, you can use your free formulator PPs for this race of the day and look up his stats off of long layoffs like this, 180-plus day layoffs, especially in dirt routes. The numbers are outstanding. He tends to have these horses ready to run. War Stopper is going to be tough in this race if he shows up and runs one of his good ones. 7-5 on the morning line may not be that easy a price to take. Let's take a look at Pletcher's other horse, number 6, Roman Empire, because this is a horse who has 2 wins as opposed to the 2 favorites who only have 1 win. And both of his wins have come at a 1-turn mile at Aqueduct or at Gulfstream Park. So that's obviously a good thing for this horse. He's not a speed, but he's not, super slow early. I don't think he has to be outrun early in this race. I want to look at his most recent start. Again, this is back in June 14th. It's over this track. It's over this distance. And he's going to get it done here. This is a long duel through the stretch with the runner-up in this race. They were the 2 favorites in here. Roman Empire bobbled at the start, so he wound up, maybe a little bit further off the pace than he otherwise might have been. But he, all in all, he got a pretty good trip. He kept the pace and range. He chased it while getting pushed about 4 wide on the turn, and he was very game through the stretch to prevail. You can see him prevailing at the end there. A very game performance, a 78 Beyer speed figure. He's run a bunch of races sort of in a tighter range here. In his dirt starts anyway, Beyer 78, 79, 81. It seems about, to be where he is, at least at that stage of his development. But he's a 3-year-old. He's lightly raced. He could certainly improve off the layoff here. We already talked about how good Pletcher is off of layoffs like this. And this horse gets Luis Saez, who got off to another fast start at this Gulfstream Park meet over the weekend. That horse, certainly has a big chance in this race. The 4 Target Tails. He might be, the kind of horse, if you're looking for a better price, to try to get in there somewhere. This horse finished second in each of the first 3 starts of his career, just missed races 2 and 3 back. The second of those back on August 30th. He was a very heavy favorite, and he just failed to get up there. He did get wired that day. A horse, got right to the lead on him, and he just couldn't catch. His most recent start, though, represented a pretty nice turnaround in form. That was back at the end of September. It was also sprinting. They put blinkers on for the first time, and it feels like the blinkers made a big difference for this horse. He was a very short price, and he won the race like a very short price should. He was, well clear of the stretch of that race. He won by nearly 10 lengths. His Beyer jumped all the way up to a 77. He's going to stretch out for the first time here, but if he can handle the added distance of this race and take one more step forward, he's a horse who could certainly get in there, and he may show a little more speed here as well as he stretches out in distance. We'll see what happens here with the 2 Pletcher horses. I respect both of them. I think they could win. I just feel like, considering some of the questions surrounding War Stopper, and I'm not sure that he isn't good enough, to win a race like this, but 7-5 feels like a pretty short price, and we'll see if he ultimately does go off that short. I don't think I would take him. I would rather take the 5, Answer In, and that's where I'll go for my top pick in the race. Answer In. He's 5-2 on the line. He might very well wind up going shorter than that. In my opinion, he should go off shorter than that. This is a horse who ran really, really well in the first 2 starts of his career. Broke his maiden by 5 lengths with an 83 Beyer. He ran really well that day. His next 2 starts after that came in stakes races. Missed ahead in the Springboard Mile in December at Remington Park. He came back early in the Grade 3 Southwest at Oaklawn Park, and he ran well again to be 3rd with an 87 Beyer. Then he caught a sloppy track before a layoff there in April. He came back off the layoff last time at Churchill. They sprinted him. It certainly could be a case where they were prepping this horse. But all in all, he ran well there. Did not get a very good trip. They rated him from the start. He was under a very hard hold, pulling his way forward. He got in behind horses and shuffled all the way back out to last again around the turn. And then Florent Joux had to angle him out in the stretch. He raced on to the end there. I thought all in all it was a promising effort off the layoff. It may very well have been a prep just to stretch him back out again. And now he shows up second off the layoff, getting a little more distance to work with. If that morning line's close to right, he's just a horse that I would want to bet in here. I think he has some talent, and I think he ran well off the layoff last time. We'll see how that all shakes out. But I did put Answer In on top in this race over War Stopper. I do feel like they are the 2 horses to beat in here. Nothing clever for me. Actually, I have the 3 favorites, who I think will be the 3 favorites in order in my picks there. But I will take Answer In on top in the Wednesday race of the day. It's Gulfstream Park, race number 8, approximate post time 4:06 Eastern time. Good luck.